Good evening. It's Sunday evening and time for my usual look at the week in review and the upcoming week. And for reviewing the week that's just gone by, it has been quite a week in the sports world, particularly in this country where we're looking at a whole bunch of things. And you obviously know what I'm referring to, and the Ray Rice affair and the light that it has shown on many facets of major sport in this country. And I'm going to come back to that in a few minutes. But as my common practice, I'd like to just touch on a few other issues, touch on what you did last week, what we looked at and why, and where we're going this week, and how things are going. So without further ado, let me just dive into that. First note, you'll notice that usually I try to come out here and I probably have something that at least connects me. I'm wearing something that at least connects me with Post in some way. Not doing that tonight. Proudly have my Boston College shirt on after last night's fun time of watching the upset of USC. So to any Southern California fans out there, sorry, somebody had to do it. But college sport is a big part of my life in many ways, and it's just another reflection of how we get involved with a lot of things. I thought of actually putting this into an email or an announcement or something, but very interesting. When you notice last week's material, they started to talk just a little bit about college sport when we talked about the NCAA as a cartel. But what a marketing tool sport tends to be for many colleges and universities. And as it should come as no surprise to you that within an hour or two of the victory on national TV by a team that a lot of people didn't think was going to be that good over a very prominent national brand, guess what happened? Yes, I got an email from the Boston College Athletic Department. And it was there. It was the please donate money while you're in a good mood. So colleges use sport in many, many ways, and we're going to investigate that in a few weeks in a little more detail. But I just thought I'd point that one out. Okay, let's just talk about the course material, the normal course material as it went. And last week, we kind of almost doubled over some things from the week before when you began to look at leagues and their business purpose and what it was all about. And we also talked about the concept of antitrust, of leagues as monopolies, individual teams dominating markets, how leagues manage their businesses. And you had some discussion board spillover from the week before when I asked about leagues regulating the business of their member teams. And this week we explored the NFL in a little bit more detail. Was it 32 independent businesses, or is it really in practicalities, never mind what the legalities say, practically speaking, is it one business? And I thought people did a pretty good job of analyzing that. It's quite interesting. The antitrust regulations in sport go right back to baseball being considered a public exhibition instead of a business. That's how the whole thing started. Do you think that leagues could operate without that exemption? We've seen some very, very interesting things over the years. One of the things that might tend to speak to the reality of monopoly is look how many times in the last 15 to 25 years people have attempted to start rival businesses to the National Football League. And I can think of, the USFL, the ill-fated XFL, things that were intending to capitalize on the immense popularity of the sport, and yet were not able to gain traction in the face of this enormous competition, this monster, this 800-pound gorilla that is the National Football League. So this just tells you a little bit about the economic power of that one league. And as we go forward into this week, we're going to shift gears just a little bit, and this one might be a little bit more fun for us because this is the one week where we get to look at things not so much directly as business and economics types, but more as sports people. We're going to start talking about competitive balance. and that puts us directly on the field, on the court. How do leagues maintain competitive balance? Is competitive balance good? Is a dynasty good for the sport? Is the underdog winning all the time a sport? Benefit to a sport. We've often said, you've heard some pundits say that the NFL would just love to have everybody be 8-8 and in contention for the playoffs. We always get that argument that, like when my beloved Giants won the Super Bowl the last time, they were 9-7 and they got hot at the end of the year. They weren't the best team, but they won the tournament. That can happen in other sports too. But we look at some different systems and see how sports leagues have developed methods for trying to regulate the competitive balance. And in the name of maintaining the product on the field, then we go beyond that to looking at what does this mean to the business off the field. Can you have a good business with an imbalanced product? Small market teams, do they need a winner more than the big market team? Is it good for the league to have a winner in its biggest market? Does the EPL, the English Premier League, have to have a champion in London? Is the NFL really happy when one of the New York teams is really good? Are the Yankees good for baseball? These are the kind of questions we're going to start looking at this week. And I think they're very interesting. So, again, I think this week you get to deviate a little bit from the economist first view, but never straying too far from that business and economics point of view that you need to maintain. And people have done well with it so far. And yeah, I know it's hard to do. Look, it's hard for me to do. Look at the two admissions I just made to you. Look at me sitting here in my old college shirt. Being a fan is something that's hard to give up. Try to hang on for another couple of weeks. It'll make sense to you. Okay, clearly the big issue in professional sports this week. It's kind of been right up until we started playing the games on Sunday or on Thursday night even. Well, Thursday night heightened it, didn't it? Because it was the Ravens. It's been all Ray Rice all the time, all Roger Goodell all the time. And what I was interested in is what did we think of the situation and what did we think of it as a business problem or a business opportunity? I really want to thank everybody for the response that you gave to that bonus discussion board. I just felt that this was an opportunity for us to discuss things that were very important. And for once, on one of these bonus boards, I applied the same discipline to myself that I do on some others, and I stayed out of it because I wanted to see everybody else's opinion. So now I'm going to wade in with mine and kind of address it back to the whole class. Mine is, this is a very important issue. This is something that we must deal with on the issue of a social problem, a societal problem. But for the business of the NFL, frankly, I can't see this making a huge dent. It's going to be really interesting if tomorrow morning we could go and look up the TV ratings for this weekend and see if they were any different. Did people stop watching the games? Did people stop going to the games? How much merchandise got sold league-wide? In the end, what really is the impact of Ray Rice's contract? The guy who was hurt most financially this week, obviously, was Ray Rice. But how big an impact did this really have on the Ravens? Well, maybe a little more than anybody else in the league, than the 31 other teams. But how big a hit did football take? How big a hit did the NFL take? Did we see a mass exodus of people saying, I'm not watching, I'm going to go only watch baseball from now on because these guys are all a bunch of bad guys. The players are thugs, the coaches are cheaters, the commissioner is incompetent and immoral. No, we didn't see any of that, did we? We saw people watching football. In fact, some of the biggest consequences that I thought were ironic were people scrambling to figure out what to do because maybe you had Ray Rice or Adrian Peterson on your fantasy team. That's how big the sport has become. I just mentioned fantasy teams. How has that impacted football and the fan perspective and its attractiveness as an entertainment business? I think it's an immense impact. So I really don't think that much has happened. society, social issue, legal issues, awareness of a very big problem. I think that has had some impact and hopefully positive. But, economic on the league, from my point of view, not much at all. It's business as usual today at the stadium, and that's what happened. But I do want to thank everybody for their participation. Normally you put in a bonus discussion or something like that, and you get minimal participation. Maybe if I get half the class to contribute, and look at it this time around, I think there were 66 posts in there, so that was just great. But it was interesting to me that most of us reacted on the social issue level, on the competitive level, on the personal reaction to the situation, and it took a while to get to the business aspects. And that, I think, is reflective of why I have just taken the stand I have. That I don't think it's going to affect the NFL that much. We'll see. Long term, I think there are going to be positive moves that come out of it. That would be very hard not to. The brand could take a hit. The brand, being the NFL, could suffer somewhat. But some of you pointed out, till a major sponsor bails out, or there is major reaction on the television front, that's where the real money comes, as we're learning. I don't think there's going to be that big an impact. But let's see what happens. I could have asked the question, does the NFL, being the high-profile league and high-profile, high-status symbol that it is, have a responsibility, perhaps a greater responsibility than other businesses when it comes to social issues? That's a touchy question, and I think we could spend not even just a few hours on it. We could spend an entire course on that. So again, thank you very much for your participation. On the regular discussion boards, this is one of the livelier groups I've seen. You guys do interact great with each other, and I really want people to keep it up, so that is just a bonus for me. And I really have a lot to do when it comes to grading your discussions. Please bear with me. Sometimes, maybe a few of you might not have gotten any kind of extensive comment on discussion board number 2 this week. That's probably because it didn't vary too much from discussion board number 1. So my generic comments that I made to you in the first discussion board probably carried over when I talk about things about developing ideas and maybe participation. Just remember, participation is important, but as much as anything else, develop that content. Develop your own ideas. I want to know what you think. I don't want to just hear what the text says back. I don't want to hear what another article said. It's great for you to use those as references, but remember that's what they are, references. The learning is going to take place as you develop your own knowledge and share that knowledge with other people. That is extremely important. So with that being said, we're going to enter into week 4. By the end of this week, we will have hit the halfway point of the class. And then next week is the week when we will go in and work on the midterm problem. So with that in mind, be prepared for towards the end of this week when I will introduce that problem, perhaps even before Sunday night, but certainly no later than Sunday night, and give you a lot of guidance as to how to do things. All right? So again, thanks for your participation. Thanks for your interest. Thanks for diving in on the special issue because it was too important to ignore. And I look forward to your participation and your comments on maybe a little bit more on the field type discussion this week. Okay, thanks very much.